From talking wild trash to champions and then losing twice, to nearly becoming the lightweight champion but getting knocked out in seconds. These are some of Iron Mike's most embarrassing moments. Let's begin with his fight against Brent Primus. Not only did Michael lose the belt, but someone pulled the stool from under him. You heard me right. Someone pulled the champion's stool in his defense against Primus shortly before he lost his belt. That's as close as you can get to adding insult to injury in an MMA fight, literally. Chandler was being examined by the doctors during the first round of the fight after Primus had landed some solid kicks to his calves. And to make matters worse, the champion had rolled his ankle trying to check one of the kicks. That in itself is pretty embarrassing. To train for a fight for months and go through a hellish weight cut before the fight even starts and then injure yourself with a bad step. Primus was all over Mike with a hailstorm of punches when he sensed weakness, and everybody thought the ref was stepping in to stop the fight. Bizarrely, he wanted a doctor to check out Chandler's drop foot. When Mike stood up momentarily, one of the NYSAC officials pulled his stool, thinking the fight was ending. The champion hilariously rolled backward as he tried to sit back down, and the fight was stopped by the doctor once he got a look at the leg. As horrid as this was, Chandler won back his title from Brent in a 5-round war once his leg healed and he shook off some of the shame. Sadly, he couldn't fulfill any of his promises in the 2 title losses he had against Will Brooks. I mean, ill will made Chandler pay for all the trash talk he did leading up to their fights. I can't put all the blame on Michael here. You have to make some waves in the media if you want real success in the mixed martial arts game. Brooks was the champion, and Chandler was trying to get a title fight. So, of course, he took every opportunity he got to insult the champion. Unfortunately for Chandler, it worked a bit better than he had hoped, because it got Will's attention and pissed him off. The champ was already facing heat in the news because of his public spats with Bellator management, and he didn't appreciate the way Chandler kept bringing up his bad employee status, nor did he think Mike was as genuine as he presented himself in the media. Chandler has always had somewhat of a Boy Scout image for a fighter, but Brooks was sure Chandler wasn't all that God-fearing. He decided to help Chandler with that and put some fear of the Lord in him during their hyper-competitive title matchup. After losing, Mike went on a rant about incompetent referees and faulty management, all the while calling Ill Will a fake champion. It's safe to say he got humbled in the rematch. Brooks put a beating on Chandler for 3 rounds before knocking him out in the 3rd. Coming up short in title fights is something of a habit Michael developed in Bellator, and he carried it with him when he signed with Dana White. In fact, Iron Mike made a huge mess of the biggest opportunity he had in the UFC. I can't stress enough how rare it is for a fighter to get a title shot in the Ultimate Fighting Championship for their 2nd fight in the promotion. Michael's early finish from Dan Hooker landed him opposite Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title, and for the majority of the first round, it looked like Chandler had the upper hand. His shots seemed to be hurting Charles every time they landed. He survived getting submitted by the jiu-jitsu wizard despite giving up his back, reversing the position, and even landing some ground and pound. But his biggest moment came when he landed a haymaker on the side of the Brazilian's head and dropped him to the canvas. But Mike was too wild with his follow-up, letting Oliveira survive till the end of the round. No big deal, right? Everybody thought Charles would be compromised as the fight restated and victory was guaranteed for Iron Mike. However, as soon as the fight started, Charles landed a picture-perfect check hook on Mike to drop him. And Du Bronx was way more efficient with his ground strikes. I'm sure Michael was thinking about his victory speech mere seconds before he was lying unconscious on the canvas. Coming so close to victory and missing out will have anybody hanging their head in shame. But Chandler's felt that shame more than once in the UFC. Iron Mike couldn't finish the fight against the Diamond either. This one wasn't for a championship, but I'd wager that it stings even more when you consider everything that surrounded this loss. First of all, Chandler really crossed the lines of decency against Dustin when he was trying to talk his way into a fight. Not being able to back up your trash talk makes you look like an idiot in every situation. But Chandler got it worse because he was choked unconscious. But that's just the tip of the iceberg of embarrassment, as Chandler was well in control of the fight before he got finished. The first round was competitive, but Chandler seemed to be holding his own and doing damage to Poirier. In the second round, he managed to take Dustin down and lock in a body triangle, but failed to lock in a choke despite holding the position for the rest of the round. Once the third round came around, Poirier took Chandler's back and quickly finished him with the same move Chandler had failed to accomplish earlier. It was a pretty bad night for the former Bellator champ, right? Well, it got worse once the fight ended. Chandler faced some pretty serious cheating allegations from Dustin. The Diamond went after Chandler after the fight, accusing him of breaking several rules even though he won the fight. Of course, Chandler denied it. But replays showed clear footage of Chandler's fingers in Dustin's mouth, confirming the fishhook allegations from the second round. He sheepishly admitted to the mishap, but had nothing to say about the accusations of hitting Poirier in the back of the head on a couple of occasions. This felt like a callback to what Brooks said about Chandler. He's not as innocent as he portrays himself to be, and now the world has camera footage. But you know what? I can overlook all of these moments under the pretense that it was a fight or just a lack of skill. What really annoyed me about Chandler was his showboating in his fight against Gaethje despite clearly losing the matchup. It was clear to everybody watching that Chandler gave up against the highlight. It was an extremely competitive fight when it started. Like all of Chandler's fights, he rocked his opponent with his power and explosiveness in the first round, but withered away as the fight went on. After getting badly beaten in the second round and getting dropped by a nasty shovel uppercut, I think it became clear to Chandler that he wasn't getting past Justin, and he resigned himself to making the best of the situation, rather than trying to win the fight. Chandler was walking into shots with his hands by the side, taking unnecessary risks and causing damage all because it looked good on camera. I understand the mindset behind it. Heck, I'll even admit it's a smart business decision. But as a fighter, it's embarrassing. Chandler has all the skills needed to defeat any fighter on the planet, but he cared more about the highlight reel than he did about getting the victory. Well, folks, these are the most embarrassing moments Michael Chandler's had in his career.